political campaign. Well, in a lot of countries, you can't do that anymore because the state now controls the media. The state censors the internet. Brazil just banned Twitter because Elon Musk refused to censor user speech. Kamala Harris says that Musk better behave himself or he will, quote, lose his
privileges and it should be taken down. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
She thinks, and the Democratic establishment thinks, that free speech is a privilege. Well, you know and I know that it's a right. And if Kamala Harris is elected, the powers behind her will quash that right. They're already halfway there. It will be too late by 2028.
Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my content, and welcome back to Suzerain. So, where are we here? What's in the news? The Radical says Albin Clavin is the vice president. It's official. Albin Clavin is the new vice president of Swordland. Looking at this pic objectively, I catch myself thinking that honestly it could have been worse. Okay, so we just lost Peter. We moved forward with Albin Clavin, which, so far to date, hasn't turned out so well. But we'll see if it improves in the future. I arrived in the city of Esord with my new Vice President Albin, after receiving an emergency meeting request from Iosif and Lilius. I had seen the reports of recent issues that rose between the Swordish police force and the gendarmerie units at the city. The report said that an operation against a drug trafficking gang in Vesord failed due to miscommunication. It was not hard to guess what this meeting was going to be about. We entered the city hall and made our way to the second floor. I could hear Iosif and Lilius's voice echoing through the hall. I opened the doors to the meeting room. The two ministers did not even realize. This is unacceptable. How dare the police meddle in the affairs of the gendarmerie? It was your men who started this ridiculousness and meddled with an ongoing police investigation. Their voices were getting louder and louder. Rural security is my jurisdiction, and your men were way outside of Vesord. Albin Clavin, we are here to help with the matter. What is going on? Mr. President, Mr. Vice President? Apologies, but Miss Graff here fails to understand her place. No, Mr. Lancia, you are the one who does not understand his place. If you continue to do so, you will pay for it one day. That's enough. Calm down, both of you. I'm trying really hard to stay calm, Mr. President. Miss Graff, you are pushing your boundaries. Lilius, explain what happened. Mr. Greaser was tasked with the investigation of a drug trafficking ring in downtown Vesord. We found the evidence of a drug stash located in the outskirts of the city. We had to act quickly to put an end to the criminals. We have been watching for some time. So we immediately sent our police units to catch them to find the drugs in the compound. Mr. Lancia and his gendarmerie did not notify us that they were also moving against the same target. As a result, criminals got away and we lost months of progress. Isn't there a lot of communication between you? There is, but the Minister of Defense decided to avoid notifying the police department about the planned raid. The same could be said about you, because the reports show that you knew about the gang and their stash in the countryside. I started tapping on the table with my fingers. What I hear is you're both incompetent. Sir? Both of them started staring at the table without saying anything. Lilius finally spoke up. I think this was the last drop. Internal security matters should be handled handed to the Ministry of Interior completely. We are called the Ministry of Interior for a reason. We can't let any more screw-ups like this happen again. She looked at me. I want the Gendarmerie transferred to the Ministry of Interior. What? Woman, are you out of your mind? Iosif turned red with anger. He composed himself after a moment. To me, what needs to change is not the structure itself, but the problems in it. We need to find out what's causing this and fix it. I believe I just told you the fix to the problem, Mr. Clavin. Please address me as Mr. Vice President, Miss Graff. I simply don't think the end justifies the means in this case. This is not an individual case. This has been happening for a long time, in case you did not know, Mr. Clavin. Ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I won't hand over the Gendarmerie tour out of the question. Do you have a better solution, Iosif? Whenever operations overlap, we should engage at a lower rank with the local officers on both sides. We could work on establishing that, but it still doesn't change the wrong system that exists now. I want to remind you about your promise, Mr. President. I remember it very well, don't you worry. That is relieving. What promise? Now I see what's going on here. Enlighten us. What's going on here, Iosif? Lilius set us up to create the incident. Lilius bit her lips. That is going a bit too far. What proof do you have? There's no way the police had arrived at the right time of the month-long search on the exact day and minute of the Gendarmerie raid. This is conspiracy theory territory. It very much is a conspiracy theory. This kind of accusation is unheard of. It's nonsense. If I were you, I wouldn't believe a word Mr. Lancia says, Mr. President. Heed my word, Mr. President. When dealing with these situations, you need to always look at who gets what out of it. I won't stand idle by these utterly ridiculous and baseless accusations. I don't have time for this. What is your decision? The Gendarmerie will be transferred to the Ministry of Interior. You are making a mistake. Thank you for being a man of your word. It was the right call to establish a modern internal security structure. There are bigger issues at hand that need attention. Focus on them instead of each other. We will do our best, right, Mr. Lancia? That's right, Miss Graff. I left the room to attend to my next scheduled meeting. Reports from Narbil indicate that the presence of the community police has had a positive impact on crime, with the area seeing a noticeable reduction in drug trade and drug possession arrests. Is that it? It's looking that way. Gendarmerie transferred to Interior. The Palace decided to transfer the Gendarmerie force under the Ministry of Defense to the Interior following a dispute that occurred earlier in the week. It is reported that the two ministries have resolved the problems and that President Rain wanted to improve the internal versus external security structure. Officials from the MOD did not comment on the transition publicly, while the Minister of Interior Graf hailed the move as a necessary one. Briefing on the current healthcare situation. I had a meeting scheduled with Pascal to receive the annual healthcare report. He arrived at my office with stacks of papers underneath both arms. Mr. President. He put the mountain of papers on my desk and made a loud thud. I know this seems like a lot. Reviewing it shouldn't take more than a day. He measured the pile again. Or maybe two. Very well, thanks for bringing these in. No problem at all. They contain very important information about the status of our healthcare. Salaries, expenditures, hospital reports, whatever you like. We can go through this together. Okay, let's begin. He continued. But I don't want to bore you, so I will quickly summarize. So, just a reminder, why are we in this meeting? It's because earlier we had a meeting of my ministers, and Pascal gave a very brief report that I didn't find satisfactory. So he said that we would schedule a later meeting where he would go through stuff in more detail. And so this was an attempt to prove a point that there's so much detail to go through. He's trying to use that stack of papers there as leverage. I breathed a sigh of relief as he put on his reading glasses to look at the document he was holding. So we have concluded our report for the year. Thanks to the allocated funds, we have improved the healthcare in the country overall. I've used the resources to begin a comprehensive health reform. We have more patients treated, less waiting time, and higher treatment quality than the years before. Great to hear. Thank you for your hard work, Pascal. This wouldn't be possible without your wise decision, Mr. President, so thank you. Huh? Something doesn't make sense here. It gave me the option to choose that I had increased the budget on healthcare when I did not. Okay, whatever. We're certainly on the right path to challenge even Lesbia or Velksland in the matter, but we are not there yet. However, give it a few more years and we might even surpass them. We can't simply follow the footsteps of other nations. I agree. We need to pave our own path to a better healthcare for our citizens. Moving on. Our privatization efforts had both positive and negative effects. It helped us raise further funds that we spent on improving the system. Privatized hospitals opened in many places with top-notch equipment. But on the other hand, privatized hospitals are rather expensive even for an ordinary middle-class citizen. These are the expected growing pains of our healthcare system. I agree. Now we need to look into the future. Pascal skimmed the rest of the documents before putting it down. The investment we poured into our rural health facilities has paid off greatly. The quality of care increased due to the upgraded equipment, and we were able to hire more healthcare staff. Excellent. The people in the countryside deserve better health services. Yes, they have been neglected for a long time due to political reasons. Not anymore. All these efforts have resulted in a clear increase of quality in health services provided to our citizens. He cleared his throat. Now that I've given you the short summary, there is a very important matter to discuss. Leaning over to grab his briefcase, he pulled out a tan-colored package. The package was stamped with big red letters that read "Confidential." Pascal opened the package and brought out a few documents. He handed them over to me. I took the documents from his hand. It was a report from the Ministry of Health. Each page had a stamp on it that read, "For President's eyes only." The report was titled "Polio Outbreak in Bergia." How bad is it? For now, it seems to be under control. We have put a few villages under quarantine. The total number of affected is currently 1,467. The death toll is at 23 so far. Death toll? I thought polio paralyzed people, not killed them. If we have more outbreaks, the result will be terrible. If we have more, the result... Okay. Thankfully, we have received the additional funding to our healthcare. No, you didn't. Again, he's saying that he received additional funding. Huh. Okay, well. This should curb the infection ratio, although I'm afraid even that might not be enough. This is a very serious matter, Mr. President. The lives of Swedish citizens are at stake. What can we do about it? We have done our research. There is a cure. A vaccine was recently invented in United Cortana, and the formula has been made available for free across the entire world. Okay, what's the catch? No matter what people think about United Cortana, if the same thing had happened in Arcasia, they would be paying a steep price for it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. If there's a free cure or vaccine, what's the problem then? Thanks to the very good decision made by you to increase funding to our healthcare, we have the capability to produce the vaccine locally. I didn't increase funding for healthcare. I increased funding for security, for the police, the interior. Your budget stayed the same. The only increase in budget you got was through privatization of facilities. What are you talking about, Mr. Pascal? But I'm afraid simply having the vaccine won't help. We need to make sure they are administered. We need to implement a nationwide mandatory polio vaccination policy. A nationwide mandatory polio vaccination. So we need to tell people what to do with their bodies. No, that's not going to happen, Mr. Pascal. With your order, I can immediately get to work to ensure we are doing whatever it takes. This might seem excessive, however, it's absolutely necessary. Let's observe the situation first. We will be fine without it for now. Very well, I will keep you up to date. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must get to work immediately. He got up from his seat. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. He left my office, leaving me alone with a lot of paperwork to go through. So once again, the game gives you a very limited set of options there. So in that previous engagement with the health minister, he demanded a nationwide mandatory vaccination program. And obviously, I'm against a government mandated vaccine. So he then the decision was just to forget about it, not even attempt to vaccinate anyone, just see how it goes. What about, I don't know, a nationwide voluntary vaccination drive? Wouldn't that have made far more sense and been the middle ground to choose? Why was that option not there? Because the game likes to give you the extreme ideological paths, and then you get to suffer the drawbacks of your extreme choice instead of having a moderate path. Protests against gender equality in education. Shortage housewives have turned out in record number to protest the presidential decree ordering gender equality in education. Most of the demonstrations appear to be centered in Enrica, with Mayor Curtin Lestat's administration providing the protesters with permits and security. Let's check the news. USP obstructionism blocks crucial tax bill. Treasury balance at risk. The United Sordland Party's obstructionist tactics have caused significant disruption in the government, blocking key tax bills and putting the country's treasury balance in jeopardy. The political gridlock could potentially impact Sordland's future credit ratings, exacerbating the economic challenges already facing the nation. As the standoff continues, the path toward resolution remains uncertain. USP's political maneuver, a deja vu from Alfonso's era, echoing from former President Alfonso's administration, are resounding as USP obstructionist tactics come to the fore. This political tug-of-war, reminiscent of Alfonso's own legislative struggles, underscores a disturbing pattern. Volcanic power Yark Trellis harnesses advanced energy solution. Yark Trellis is pioneering the use of volcanic activity to power advanced technologies by employing innovative geothermal energy systems. These systems tap into the heat from the country's volcanoes, converting it into electricity through a network of wells and heat exchangers that access geothermal reservoirs. Yeah, nothing could go wrong with that, I'm sure. Epidemic prevention measures. Due to a health emergency, the authorities have initiated an epidemic prevention plan, diverting all available resources towards containment measures. Due to diligent efforts and timely precautions taken by the Ministry of Health, the epidemic that was spreading across the country is now under control. Okay. Residence of the President of Sordland and Holsword. Now I get to see the fallout with my wife, whom I've to date totally supported and have backed her completely. But that won't be enough, I'm sure. As I stepped through the front door of our stately residence, a sense of tranquility washed over me. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, without Frank blasting his music from upstairs. I entered the grand study and let the warm glow of the room envelop me. Monica was sitting by the fireplace with a very old-looking book in her hand. What are you reading? Oh, I didn't realize you were home. The book's nothing. You wouldn't like it anyway. Her voice was cold as she spoke. What's wrong? Really, Anton? Yeah, of course. I could see the anger in her eyes. I don't want to talk right now. Let me read in peace. We both sat by the fireplace in stony silence. Just then we heard the patter of small feet approaching the study. Deanna appeared by the door with a piece of folded paper clutched in her hand. Mama, Papa, my school report came in. Monica and I immediately turned our attention to her, our curiosity piqued. Very well, bring it here and let's assess your progress together. Deanna unfolded the paper and gave it to me. I was so close to the top of the class. I heard a mix of pride and disappointment in her voice. That's incredible, Deanna. You've worked hard and it shows. Deanna smiled. You did great, darling. I'm so proud of you. She knelt down and gathered Deanna into her arms. I know, but I still feel kind of bad. I'm sure I would have been at the top if the boys at school weren't so annoying. Ever since they started letting the girls take science classes, they've been distracting us during exams, and teachers don't even care. And then there's the stupid blonde boy, Marcus. He never even studies, but the teachers always give him higher grades than everyone else. Don't call him stupid, baby. Who is this Marcus? I told you about him, Mommy. Marcus Clavin. The one who can't even do basic math. Remember? Wait, did you just say Clavin? Yes, that's his last name. Actually, I may know his father. Really? His father came to the school a couple of times and shouted at teachers. He did what? I already told you. Isn't that your new VP, Anton? How do you keep finding men like this? Yes, he is the new vice president. Great. Anyway, I think I'll continue my book, Anton. Of course there's something wrong. She's mad that I didn't back her up in that one meeting and freaking... No, I just want to read, Anton. Fine. I grabbed Deanna's hand and walked out of the room. A question to support and attend the Ashraf anniversary event. Attend to support. Solidarity for Watani Ashraf's anniversary. On our way to Inner Ezran, we stopped to meet with the local police chief, Ionis Vizir, to discuss how the abolishment of the zone was faring for the locals. The city had been of particular importance to the Bloodish people ever since the Islam incident and the death of Watani Ashraf over the 2 decades ago. Today we were here to commemorate the anniversary of those events. The ceremonies were to be held in the aptly named Ism Square, several blocks away from Lake Seoul and the sunken ruins of the village of Ism. We entered the historic center in the presidential Cadilla. The streets were littered with broken glass and the walls defaced with graffiti. I sensed a heavy regional police presence. The convoy could barely fit through the narrow streets, disrupting local traffic and creating noisy chaos in the usually tranquil city. Pedestrians stared at us with concern as we, our security forces, drove towards the square. I must say this was a good decision, sir. This will help ease tensions. I hope so. If we play our cards right, I am certain we are almost there. I can hear the crowd. I heard the chants and the shouting from outside. Lucien leaned closer to the window, listening to their voices. They are telling us to go back where we came from. A large crowd has assembled in the square. There were probably at least 10,000 people. Most of them were yelling insults and obscenities at me. As our convoy slowed down, a young bloodish man ran in front of our vehicle and spat on my window. Do not do anything. Our vehicle came to a stop. My driver exited the vehicle and opened the door for me. The crowd before me had signs in their hands protesting my decision to centralize Bergia. We were greeted by Monsoon Leek. He wore a coat over his suit, which was marked with the red and turquoise stripes of the Bloodish Movement's flag. He moved forward to greet us. Welcome to Suzerain, Mr. President. Shake his hand. We shook hands. Mr. Leek, Mr. Galad, welcome. Shall we move on to the sanctuary then? Let's go. We made our way to the Suzerain sanctuary, which stood at the end of the square. A much smaller replica of the arch sanctuary in Dare. The ancient building had a mystical aura emanating from its blackened walls. We entered the building through the ornamented large metal gates. As we walked, the noise of the crowd faded out. Everyone fell silent for the ceremony. Thousands of candles were burning inside the sanctuary, one for each person that died in Ism. The red candles in the center was for Watani Ashraf. Monsoon gestured toward the candles. These are very special candles, and I'm just going to go pick them up. I mean, granted, if I do it carefully and don't extinguish the candle or screw it up in some manner, maybe I could pull something off of this. I've never done this. I've never had this dialogue before. It feels like the teapot all over again. Where if I pick up the teapot, am I going to break the handle? I guess if I'm going to pick something up, I might as well go all the way, huh? Pick up the red candle. He also picked up a candle and started walking out. Many others followed suit, including us. The atmosphere outside had completely changed. Not a single noise came from the crowd. We slowly walked towards Asher's grave. On the way, hundreds of people joined us. Seeing the red candle in my hand, some people started shouting at me, breaking the silence. One man managed to break the security cordon and ran towards me, screaming, "Don't defile Ashraf's spirit, you racist dog. Take your hands off that candle." Before he could get to me, one of my presidential guards grabbed the man and dragged him away. Monsoon looked at me with a mix of fear and anger in his eyes, but he knew better than to speak. Yeah, this isn't going well. When we arrived, he pointed at a huge standing torch above the grave. I feel like there's a proper way to do this, and I haven't been briefed on the proper way to do this. Light the torch together with Mansoon. They were all looking at me, waiting to hear what I would say. My fellow citizens, we are here to mourn Watani Ashraf and many others who lost their lives. They were brave men and women who only wanted to protect their land. I share your hatred and anger. I feel it too. I assure you, like a red-hot iron, it takes a long time for it to cool. But I look at the lost lives and think, what would they want? An old man from the crowd yelled revenge. To what end? We need to break this vicious cycle of violence and vengeance for a better future. Let me tell you one thing. I dream of a truly united Swordland, a country where being a blood or a sword does not matter. I feel responsible and ashamed for the actions of my predecessors. Most of all, I feel the desperation to remove this black mark from our history. The responsibility falls on all of our shoulders because we don't have anyone but each other. To our unity. There was no reaction from the crowd, only silence. The man broke the silence and shouted, "Do not listen to murderers," and threw a tomato. It hit the ground right in front of me. You cannot claim that you support us after trying to kill our language. You supported murderer Smolak in his crusade against our people. You denied entry to innocent refugees. You were responsible for the death of thousands. There was a moment of complete silence, then the whole crowd erupted. Lucian looked at me worriedly. People started coming closer and closer to us, chanting, "Yolak Bluderat." Lucian grabbed my shoulder. "We must leave now, sir." With only our personal guard protecting us against a crowd of thousands, we started making our way back to the cars hastily. The convoy started driving away. As soon as we were seated, the windows of the vehicle were completely covered with rotten vegetables, eggs, and splatters of paint by the time we finally left the city. Well, that went marvelously. Swordsland has a complex relationship with its bloodish population, with discrimination and unequal treatment. Suzerain kicks out the president. President Rain has been kicked out by the people of Suzerain during the Ashraf anniversary. Since the beginning of his entire visit was clearly a sham to increase his public opinion poll. The good people of Suzerain acted on it. Unfortunately, a few citizens were injured during the stampede. Administration has not made any comments on the incident yet. I walked to the right room with a cup of coffee in my hand. My vice president had scheduled a meeting on the current political situation. I opened the door and entered the room. Albin immediately stood up. Good morning, Mr. President. Take a seat. This shouldn't take long. I just wanted to go over the current political climate. Mr. Hull told me he's just about finished with his new plan for the economy. He said he wanted to solidify the plan before it's presented to you. He'll schedule a meeting soon to go over our options. I'll be expecting good ideas and even better outcomes. Of course, I will relay this to him as soon as possible. Next, it's time to talk about our election prospects. Before we move on, I want to ask you something. I've heard something from my daughter. Sure, your daughter? Yes, people saw you shout at teachers. I don't like power trips, Alvin. Oh. Must be a misunderstanding. You can't use your title to threaten and manipulate the teachers to get your son ahead of everyone else. Frankly, it's disgusting. I didn't do anything wrong. He eyed me for a second and then decided against whatever he was going to say. Well, okay, you're right. There was a sharp, soft knock on the door. I hope it's all right with you that I've invited Mr. Gilad to this portion of the meeting. Why wouldn't it be? I don't know, just a feeling. I'll let him in. Albin went to get the door. Lucian walked in. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. If Lucian still resented my choice of vice president, he didn't show it. His tone was nothing but cordial and professional. The three of us sat down. Albin handed out a new set of documents. Excuse me. Mr. Clavin, I'll let you take the lead on this. Thank you, Mr. Gilad. I just received the results of the voter poll commissioned by Peter Vectorn shortly before his departure. To put it in plain language, it's not great. Bad even. The USP stands to lose up to 20% of the vote compared to last time around. Tell it to me straight. Do we still have a chance? We will have a year to gain more votes, but we've got to think strategically, which presumably is why you've retained the services of your chief strategist. Do you have something to add, Lucy? No, pardon the interruption. Albin shuffled some pages around, looking at the demographics of the voters polled. You've fallen out of favor with conservatives. Less than half of them are likely to vote for you. The liberal base appears divided, but you do have a considerable number of supporters there. For better or worse, you certainly aren't popular with nationalists. If you ever had any supporters from socialists, you've completely lost it now. Unsurprisingly, none of the bloodish poll respondents said they were planning on voting for you. Lastly, we can't expect votes from centrist and unaffiliated voters unless we do something to win them over. Lucian, what do you suggest? Lucian smiled and bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Mr. President. This may sound like common sense, but a convincing enough campaign can succeed where policies failed. Even if you've opted not to focus on your campaign at the moment, I'd still advise you to seize every chance for exposure that you can. I'd rather be signing bills than kissing babies, perhaps, but we've both been in this game long enough to know how it's played. One more thing. There is a not insignificant portion of undecided voters who don't care who occupies the Maroon Palace as long as the economy is running smoothly. Propping up the economy just ahead of the election is a surefire way to win them over. Thanks for the advice. Lucian nodded in acknowledgement. Stability is key to allow the economy to improve further. Currently, the country is still struggling to develop due to instability. There is some worrying news. The Lothberg Group is up to something. My informants have been talking about frequent meetings happening between the oligarchs. This covers most of it. All right, Albin, your thoughts. What do liberals want? I will say the liberal base is very concerned with equality. If you want their vote, you need rock-solid policies on women's rights and human rights in general. Liberals love a free market, so if you're anything less than a full-bore capitalist, you're going to have to whip Swordland's economy into the best shape it's ever been. If you really want to clinch the liberal vote, well, you could always look for an excuse to leave the USP, but that's bound to have other consequences. Yes, that would be extremely unwise. I'll keep that in mind regardless. I've just about had it with the USP. Anyway, that's my advice for what it's worth. Great, that'll be enough for today. You're both dismissed. Well, that was everything on my end anyway. Good work, both of you. I'll see you shortly. I left the room to attend my next meeting. Gunman opens fire during protests. During the protest that started in Morna, a gunman has opened fire randomly on the crowd that gathered with a KA-74. The attacker was killed on the spot, and the death toll is currently at 54 and increasing. The attacker was found to be hiding his weapon under a bagel stand. The motive for the attack is still unknown, and no terrorist organizations claim credit. Protests turned violent in Benfey after a man was killed by the security forces for carrying a picket sign with a flashing electrical device on it. The suspicion of a bomb. Upon inspection, it was found to be a simple flashing light. After the incident, the protesters surrounded the police and 6 policemen were injured. In the subsequent events, the police were showered with rocks and tear gas was deployed. The situation is escalating. Well, what's the reason for the protest in the first place? Polio disease creeping out of Bergia region. The Ministry of Health, Pascal Benawal, has submitted a report. It states that polio disease is creeping out of the Bergia region, with the suburban area being hit the hardest due to their limited access to healthcare services. He warns that it will not be long before the infection starts spreading in cities like Hulsor, Benfey, and Lochman. The number of infection is currently at 15,423 and the death toll is 2,675 so far. 610, 14 injured in knife attack against police. Police were deployed to Narbel yesterday night in order to suppress the increasingly violent protests. During a confrontation with the crowd, 6 members of the force were killed in a knife attack and 14 members of the force were injured. The attackers, the group of 3 teenagers, ran away. A citywide manhunt is underway. Narbel's request for more reinforcements has been granted. Polio disease suppressed after exiting Welland. "13 dead in bomb-threatened and Benvi protests." Narbel bloodbath. Winds of change at Capitol Park. We had enough. It's been 2 days since we gathered together in the Capitol Park to demand answers from the government. We will stay here 2 years if need be. Even in a peaceful rally like this, the extreme police presence is a testament to the administration's view on exercising our democratic rights. If we don't protect our rights, then no one will. Time is now. Come and join us, brothers and sisters. Ride the winds of change and come to Capitol Park. Yeah, when you attempt to make everyone happy, you make nobody happy. Protests at Capitol Park. A group of individuals associated with the labor union of Swordland have started a protest in Capitol Park. So far the rally was largely peaceful, however we have detected a possibility that this protest group might be infiltrated by vandals. The area has been cordoned off in case the protests turn violent. Interesting. Well, let's go with the good news first, I suppose. The military aid. Arcasia's foreign minister, Laurent Martel, in concert with Arcasia's president Dwight Walker, has extended a significant proposition to bolster Swordland's military-industrial complex in Enrica. This generous aid package from Arcasia encompasses substantial financial assistance, logistical support, and expert guidance from their private military companies. This offer aligns with the industrial expansion plans outlined by Ministers Hull and Manger, aiming to transform Swordland into a competitive hub for new industries. We're going to accept. I don't see an increase in the budget. Why not? Military industry grows, boosted by Arcasia investment. Enrica is witnessing steady growth in military industry thanks to Arcasia investment and guidance from private military companies. The influx of foreign capital and expertise has significantly boosted the sector, positioning Enrica as a growing hub for military industrial output. Self-sufficiency in military production will help Swordland to deter regional rivals. What's going on here? Swordland has established a new military industry to manufacture and supply country's armed forces with necessary equipment. This move is aimed at reducing the country's dependency on foreign suppliers and increasing self-sufficiency. Okay, that's all good news. Military Industrial Expansion Program aims to bolster the defense sector by providing financial support up to 10,500 Swordish Ren per person to entrepreneurs and military manufacturers, alongside Monetary assistance, comprehensive support will be extended, including training, material, manpower. All good. Enrica's resurgent Arcasian aid fortifies Swordland's defense industry. Arcasia's substantial aid package, championed by Foreign Minister Laurent Martel and President Dwight Walker, promises a significant boost to Enrica and our national defense industry. This major transformation, while promising, requires vigilance to ensure that Swordish identity and interests remain paramount amid this foreign-funded renaissance. Enrica Ascendancy. Arcasian aid promises industrial revolution. The announcement of significant aid package from Arcasia has ignited a spark of potential industrial revolution in Enrica. While this initiative promises a transformation of our military-industrial complex, the fact remains that it's Arcasian-funded. The positive implications of our economy are manifold, and we need to openly navigate the investment to secure Swordland's long-term economic interests. Arcasian aid bolstering Swordland's military industry. In a bold move, Arcasian foreign minister, backed by President Walker, has extended generous aid package. However, the deal raises concerns about Arcasian influence over our nation, requiring us to critically examine the true cost of this so-called generosity. How we respond will be a test of our commitment to sovereignty and self-reliance. Lilius entered my office and took a seat. She was frowning intensely. She didn't talk at first, just fixed me with a steady gaze. When she did speak up, it was in strained tones. Mr. President, we have a problem. Yes, Lilius, we always have a problem. Go on. This just came in. Here, take a look. Take a look at the report. I took the document from her hand and started reading it. The report was titled Violent Protest in Major Cities. I looked up immediately after reading the title. Lilius gave me a grim nod of confirmation. Anti-capitalism protests have been erupting all over Swordland. They are protesting you, Mr. President. They are asking for your resignation. I can't say this is unexpected. What is unexpected, however, is the sheer size of the protests and the level of violence. Several people have been killed already. Swordland hasn't seen this kind of unrest since the death of Bernard's circus. Change doesn't come easy. There's always a cost. Yes, and it's our duty to keep that cost as low as possible. Karl Griesner is on his way here right now. We will tell us what he knows so far. Just then there was a loud knock on the door. Karl came in without waiting for an answer. He was clearly out of breath. Ah, there he is. He saluted me. Salute him back. Mr. President, I'm so sorry for being late. Karl, I already informed the President of this situation. Do you have any updates? As you know, protests have been organized in major cities like Holsword, Lacoven, and Deer, and many more. Thankfully, the demonstrations have been successfully suppressed for the time being, although I do believe we would have had an easier time dealing with them if we had additional riot gear. 2 civilians and 2 policemen were killed due to a firebomb thrown by protesters. Aside from the small incident, the situation is mostly under our control. We currently have 27 protesters in custody. Among the detainees, we have found Red Youth members and BFF members. The main rhetoric they all share is that they are demanding the president's resignation. If my citizens are unhappy, then we should at least hear what they have to say. I would refrain from giving them too much agency. What does the protester profile look like? We have investigated the various groups involved in the protest and compiled a list of their complaints. I will go through it. He pulled out a document from the folder he was carrying. The majority of the protests are about the state of the economy. The language unification bill led to protests, particularly in the Bergia region. Thanks to the media, we are under fire for showing support at the Ashraf anniversary. In addition, there are many provocateurs that are not tied to any specific organization or cause. We need to take action, Mr. President, immediately. If the protests get even more violent than they already are, we are risking a civil war. Down with hey, I have a STEAM achievement. I've caused unrest. Great. Your orders, Mr. President. I can't fight against my own people. Set up a meeting with their spokesperson. I'll listen to their demands. As you command, Mr. President. I can't say I condone this. The people must respect the laws of this land. What are you doing right now is giving in to anarchists. If you will excuse us, Mr. President, we will have work to do. Good luck. She might be right. This might be the worst option, but as I don't think I'll be able to give in to their demands, I don't think they're going to demand anything that is something I can work with. I believe you will need more luck than we do. Come on, Carl, we are leaving. Lilius hurriedly left the room. Carl bowed to me. Mr. President? He followed after her. Again, I'm falling under the same trap I keep falling into. I'm trying to make everyone happy. And in doing so, I'm making nobody happy. The country is currently facing widespread violent protest as a result of recent events. The situation has become increasingly tense. Alright, the Great Descent. Is that a comet? I'm a big, well, I used to be a big Paradox fan, actually. I strongly enjoyed Crusader Kings 2. It was one of my favorite games of all time. And so the whole comet thing kind of gets to me. A nationwide revolt erupted across the country, fueled by low public opinion and growing discontent with the government's handling of the nation. As the unrest intensified, it led to a significant decrease in stability, with violent clashes between protesters and security forces threatening to spiral into full-blown chaos. So I have no idea what these do. Stability will be recovered. ... Was that a comment? I wonder if this is kind of a joke on the Paradox events, that it didn't matter which button you pressed because it was the exact same thing. So it may not matter which button I press here, it's going to lead me to the same path. I'm hoping that's the point of this. So was that a comment? Security Act. Yeah, what could this possibly be? In response to heightened need for security due to the ongoing social unrest, the Grand National Assembly, not me, presents the Security Act to fortify public safety measures. Of course, I have to sign it for it to become law, so what are you guys suggesting here? Section 1 of the Security Act grants security forces the discretion to use force as deemed necessary to uphold law and order. This provision is designed to enable quick and decisive response in situations where public safety is at risk. It grants the security force the discretion to use force as deemed necessary to uphold law and order. Oh boy, that's a slippery slope, isn't it? Mr. Police Officer, why did you do that? Well, I felt it needed to be done in order to uphold law and order, sir. Really? You shot those 5 people because you thought they were a threat to uphold law and order. Very vague, very slippery slope. I don't like Section 1 already. Section 2 of the Security Act authorized suspicion-based arrests and confiscation without the prerequisite of a warrant. This measure seeks to expedite law enforcement's response to potential threats, thereby enhancing overall security. Oh, so now we can just have a suspicion and arrest people without a warrant. Section 3, the SAA allows security forces to exercise their authority beyond standard legal limits if such action is deemed essential for maintaining state security and protecting the general public. This clause reinforces the commitment to safeguarding national security. How does something like this get through our Grand National Assembly? If I can't change the Constitution, let's take the Constitution as an example, right? I couldn't even come remotely close to passing the constitutional changes I wanted. And in my opinion, the constitutional changes that I asked for were far less psychotically nuts than what's sitting in front of me right now. This somehow makes it through the Grand National Assembly. Yeah. Vetoed. Industrial expansion. A large expansion program presents several options to improve the industrial capacity. Minister Hall and Manger have prepared a massive industrial expansion plan that could support several key industries in the country through state investment. Zorland could become much more competitive and a hub for new industries with this initiative. Expand the agricultural industry. Well, that would more food, lower food prices, less cost at the grocery store. However, of these 3 industries, it's probably the one that's going to push GDP the least, right? But it's probably the one that would affect the poorest citizens the most. Expand automotive industry, or expand the electronics industry. Both of those are a little more GDP driving than agriculture, probably. Though it's not giving me any information about these, which is unusual. Usually Simon gives me a big speech about what will do what and what will do what and what will drive what. Here it's just, hey, you can do this, this, or this, with no actual information behind it. I'm gonna go with agriculture because I feel that while I do want to get us out of the recession and I do want to drive us towards a healthier economy, I want to do so while still making the lives of our poorest citizens better. That's been the ongoing trend that I've taken this whole time. So the highway to England was because the infrastructure there was sore, and those people were living in squalor, and they needed that. The the Sarna choice for agriculture in near Dare there in Sarna was, again, that was going to help the little guy more than the other options, like the airport, for instance, the international airport. I'm keeping with the same trend that I'm trying to help the lower class while still working to better the economy. And again, here I am trying to make everyone happy, and I'm making nobody happy. I'm probably not going to get out of this recession because of all of these choices I've been making. But, I'm trying to do the best for everybody that I can, and yeah, I'm failing. Stat decreased. Government budgets. Policy update. To support agricultural entrepreneurs and producers, a program has been introduced that offers financial assistance of up to 10,500 Swedish Rand in addition to monetary support for programs including various forms of assistance such as training, market research, market planning, and equipment reimbursement. Alright, we're down to one government budget. Belgium and Sarna ride the agricultural wave. A massive state investment plan into our agricultural heartland promises green revolutions in Belgium and Sarna. Enhanced productivity and new export avenues are on the horizon. As these fertile lands tap into their full potential, rural prosperity in these regions appear all but certain. With a forward-thinking approach, Swordland could see itself becoming a dominant force in regional agriculture. Government funds the farmers and fishers. The government today has announced a massive investment plan consisting of grants, discounted land sales, and cheap loans to incentivize and support farmers and fishers around the country to increase their productivity. The news was welcomed by many as a helping hand, especially by agricultural voters who have been hit by the recession hard. The initiative, which is one of the largest the country has ever seen since the 1930s, is expected to increase the agricultural production and exports to neighboring countries. Cities like Sarna and Vagan with high agricultural production will benefit a lot, while other areas will see massive growth in years to come. The fertility of these lands will increase. Swedish government spurs growth in Belgian agriculture. And no report in Sarna. However, this is almost done. Hopefully, it will be without any delays, as our economy is trending downward again. It's been going up and down. I can't keep it going up and getting out of this recession. It's painful. Alright. So we just have this here. What's in the news? FC Anarcha wins Swedish National League. And Hegel would take all the necessary steps. In a televised address, Chancellor Emmerich Hegel claimed intensive fighting was taking place between Agnolian forces and the locals of Hejlen, resulting in massacres of ethnic Valgs living on the island. He portrayed the conflict as a national struggle and compared it to the independence wars of former colonies in Riga. Hegel said Vogsland, as the guarantor of Hejlen's security, take all the necessary steps to prevent mass atrocities committed against the islanders. Van Horten said in a television interview that Vogslandians must withdraw their harassment squads from from the Marquis and Sea before any diplomatic talks can happen. Yep, again, that's this island here that's being fought over between Bogsland and Agnolia. End of the day at home. Oh, I get to go back to my stone icy wife. It was raining as Serge dropped me off at home after yet another grueling day of work. A guard held an umbrella over my head as I walked from the car to my front door. Inside the house it was completely dark. Flipped on the light in the kitchen to find a note from Monica. She'd gone to visit her parents for the night, bringing Deanna along with her. They'd left me some food I could reheat for dinner. I took the pot out of the fridge. It was filled with an unidentifiably gray-looking stew. Evidently my wife was still upset with me. Ordered pizza. I called Sergey and asked him to pick me up some pizza for dinner. While I was waiting for him, I went into the living room to fix myself a drink. Suddenly the phone rang. I went back to the kitchen and answered it. Frank's voice was on the other end. Oh, I thought Mom would pick up. Hello to you too, Frank. Sorry, hi Dad. Glad to catch you out of the office. There was a long silence. How's Uncle Peter doing? Surprisingly well. He's actually seeing a therapist. He may even quit alcohol. Wow, did I just see a pig fly? Some of the professors here were hoping you'd hire a new VP who'd push you closer to socialism. The cabinet chooses the candidates, Frank. I didn't have many choices. Have the equality lunatics gotten to your head already? I mean, they're obviously doing something right, but I'm aware that you disagree. You never paid attention to my politics back at home. Yeah, well, people change. My head's been stuffed with swordish propaganda since the day I was born. Right now, I feel like I'm thinking clearly for the first time. Just stay away from Reefer. Just be careful, Frank. I don't want you to get brainwashed there. Just be careful, Frank. I don't want you to get brainwashed there. The doorbell rang. Sergey was here with my pizza. How often do I get to talk to my son? Where's the... Well, it's dinner time for me. Yeah, okay, bye, Dad. We both hung up. I let Sergey in. The pizza he'd brought was gargantuan. Sergey, would you like to join me for dinner? There's an FC Enrica game today. I'd love to, sir, but I promised Susan I would watch the children tonight. Sergey left. I ate my pizza alone by the flickering light of the television, wondering when Monica and Deanna would get home. Police retaliation in Benfai. During the increasingly violent protests, 6 police officers were killed in Benfai. The police forces tasked in the area opened fire to retaliate. Civilians have been killed during the gunfire. The death toll is at 38, while there's 21 wounded. Personnel involved in the killing have been suspended until further instruction. Great. Thousands more gain amnesty freedom. Thousands of political enemies of Tarquin Sol are finally returning to their homes for the first time in decades. Many famous political prisoners have also been freed from Antel Rock prison as part of the amnesty. Perfect timing for that. I almost feel like I wouldn't have done it. Read the report. Agricultural zones open. The Sarna Agricultural Zone has opened to the public. Long lines of farmers are waiting in line to apply for the new cooperation opportunity. The opening is expected to increase the agricultural output of Sarna by 40%. As per the reports, agricultural workers from nearby cities are also migrating, creating an influx of jobs and investment. Low investment synergy reported. The synergy between various investments across sectors remains low. A lack of alignment and coordination in investment strategies is leading to suboptimal results and slowed economic progress. The current scenario underscores the need for a more integrated and strategic approach to investments to maximize their potential benefits. So, I think that what that's saying is that I had already done, by investing in Sarna agriculturally the first time around, and then doing the agricultural investment in the second time around, I put too much of my efforts in the same basket, I think is what that's saying. Read the report. Police overwhelmed in remote cities. Since the deployment of the police forces to combat the unrest, many attacks have occurred in remote cities. Ambushes are rampant and security forces are being pushed back. Police station and patrols were the main target of the militants. Unless reinforcements are provided, the current forces are not enough to control the situation. Oh, wonderful. Record number of female students. Proportion of female students enrolled in Sorlin's education system is getting closer to half the student body, with more than 1 million enrollments recorded this academic year being women, the highest share on record in Sorlin, according to a report by the Ministry of Education. So we're getting close to my re-election, or me failing to be re-elected. I've never actually failed to be re-elected. Could be a first time for that, actually, as I'm feeling like this run is not going so well at this point. However, I don't think it's hopeless either. If you notice, you have all of this protests and unrest that's happening just during election season, just before the election. And it gives you, the president, the feeling that you need to put more money into the police, like I did last time around. I put that money into the police. I didn't put it in education. I didn't put it in healthcare. I didn't put it in the military. I put it in the police because of all the protests and stuff that happened at the beginning of the game. Now I'm feeling like that's playing out a second time. Like, here I am about to get reelected, and I'm going to have this desire to put even a further budget into the police. But I think maybe that's not the best choice. Though, this is the first time that I started the game by investing in the police. I think I usually go with education, if I'm being frank. And so, but then I've also never played with the new expansion. There's a lot of new stuff in the game stemming from the Kingdom of Rivia being introduced that I've never experienced before, and those new things have kind of changed some of the things that I normally do. It's interesting. It's rejuvenated this game in a lot of ways. I'm almost curious to play it again to see if I could, I don't know, do better than I did this playthrough, because that's why I played it through before several times, to try to improve on my previous playthrough. But this playthrough almost feels brand new, like I've never played it through before, and I'm completely botching everything up. Anyway, let's move on. Read the report. Instability severely affects tourism industry. The tourism industry in Lakaben has been dealt a heavy blow. Due to increasing regional instability, visits to the city have sharply declined as tourists opt for safer destinations. The downturn in tourist numbers has led to a considerable loss for local businesses and threatens the city's standing as a major tourist hub in Sordland. Great. So we're slightly trending up again. But we just can't seem to make headway. Whole sword gridlock worsens. Administration struggles to keep up. The ongoing obstructionism spearheaded by the USP continues to tighten its grips on the capital, leading to an increasingly worsening gridlock and whole sword. Amid this turmoil, the administration seems to be floundering, struggling to maintain the pace of governance. Excuse me, and deliver on its policy agenda. Rain refuses Security Act. The administration has decided to veto the comprehensive security law package which was proposed by the parliament. The package, seen extreme by some, including the Rune Palace, would have seen new powers given to the security forces, such as the use of force and suspicion-based arrest. The veto of Rain is an outright refusal of the intended measures of the Assembly. USP conservatives try to obstruct the administration. Election campaign ramps up across Sordland. The election campaign efforts have started to pick up speed across Sordland. To become the 5th president of Sordland, the candidates began delivering their speeches at rallies and conventions while the party flags were flying in major cities. Vice President recovering from alcoholism. Former Vice President Peter Vectorn is a troubled man who has had a long struggle with alcoholism. The scandal that came to head between him and President Rain's Secretary Leviasuna was the final straw for Peter to realize that he needed help. The former VP stepped down from his position to focus on his health and is beginning his journey to recover from alcoholism. Peter Vectorn serves as a reminder that anyone from any walk of life can be faced with these challenges and should be helped back to their feet. Harshest security proposal vetoed. In an act of courage, President Rain has vetoed the Security Act proposal that would see unhinged powers extended to the security forces of the country to put down the ongoing protests. The Assembly, with a majority, had proposed the bill, which was immediately struck down by the President. The draft bill entailed necessary measures such as the use of force, suspicion arrest, and authority beyond limits of if state security is endangered, measured beyond reason. Credit where credit is due, the President did the right thing to prevent the harshest laws package the country has ever seen. Grand opening of Sarna Agricultural Zone. With the grand opening of the Sarna Agricultural Zone, the mayor of the city expressed tremendous gratitude towards administration. With the region taking the full damage from the recession, the investment has saved thousands of farmers from bankruptcy while allowing new agricultural entrepreneurs new opportunities. Agricultural products, especially wheat, are expected to increase substantially. In combination with the city being a free trade zone, Sarna is foreseen to thrive and become the center of trade in the region. Morella marks a first South Mercopian nation candidacy. In an announcement that has significant implications for regional geopolitics, the Republic of Morella, a progressively governed nation in South Mercopa, has been accepted as a candidate for CSP membership. Morella's acceptance as a candidate marks the first in the CSP, the alliance for a South Mercopian nation to begin the process. You know, something about this game that really drives me nuts is how they paint this very strange communist facade of this whole. They're painting this whole progressive thing as, how do I put it? They're almost putting the communist bloc into this light of into a false light of being very progressive and very forward thinking and very, what's the word I'm looking for, egalitarian, right? But the fact is, you can't be further from the truth. Communist countries are not egalitarian. Communist countries are the most oppressed countries in the world. The little person in communist countries are the majority. It's like going with capitalism. In a capitalist society, you might have, I don't know, I'm making up numbers here, but 40% of the country might be lower class, right? And you'll have, maybe 40% of the country middle class. So you have 40% that are low class, or maybe even considered below the poverty line, and then you have 40% that are above the poverty line or doing fairly well for themselves, and then you have another 10% that are really doing well, and then another 10% that are ultra wealthy, right? And everybody hates them and wants them to pay their fair share, yada yada yada. The capitalist shtick. In a communist society, you have like 95% of the country lives in poverty. It's 95% of the country that's in the poorer class. Everyone is equally suffering the same. They all have to stand in the same breadline. They all have to wait for the same health care. They all have to wait for the same stuff. They're all equally miserable, and then a very small group at the top that controls everything. I would rather have the capitalist way than the communist way, but they paint this false image of what communism is in this game. It kind of drives me nuts to an extent. Sarna agricultural zone. Tourism industry heavily declining. Unfortunate. Bergia economy stabilizes. Okay, well that's good. USB obstructionism intensifies. Government near standstill. Two more bills. Children for Future Act and Human Dignity Bill. Well, I have a feeling one of these, if not both of them, are going to cost us government budget. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, here's a government budget. Children for Future Act. In continuation of the effort to promote social progress and upliftment, the Parliament introduces the Children for Future Act. This act focuses on providing tangible support to families in need, with particular attention to the welfare of children. Section 1 of the CFA outlines a direct financial support mechanism for families not failing within the medium or high income brackets. Or for families not falling within medium or high income brackets. The state will issue a fixed payment for every child in these families, offering much needed financial relief and ensuring that the welfare of the child is not compromised due to economic circumstances. Section 2 of the CFA unlocks additional state support specifically aimed at the children of unemployed families. It provides financing for each child's education and any special health care needs that may arise. This proactive approach aims to create a safety net for the most vulnerable, ensuring that every child, regardless of their family's employment status, has access to education and health care. Alright. Everything about this bill looks good, right? On its face, This looks fine. But the problem is that on its face, a bill like this looks fine for every president. And after there's been 20 presidents that have seen a similar bill like this, you end up with 20 different bills like this that get passed. And they're all great bills. They're all intended with the best of intentions. However, when you have 20 bills like this, now the government's budget is being spent 20 times over to help the poor, 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 to help the poor. You get the concept. And then our government is no longer balanced. It's always in a deficit. Look at the United States. That's the exact problem that we have to an extent. So we have all of these to help the poor bills that have been introduced through the years. Then you also have the military-industrial complex that sucks up huge portions of money. And we're just continually going farther and farther and farther and farther and farther in debt. One could argue that had you cut the military expenditures, I don't know, in the 90s down, maybe we wouldn't have gotten where we are. But now we're at a point to where we could pretty much shut down all the investment in the military, like completely remove the military's budget and give them zero, and we would still not be able to get out of the debt we are in, because the payment for the interest rate alone for our debt is more than our GDP. People don't realize just how fucked we are right now. Somehow everything gets turned into everything else but the fact that we are beyond red in debt. Nobody talks about that. It's like the biggest problem we have as a nation, and it's completely ignored. It's like everybody knows that we're so far in debt, there's nothing we can fucking do, so nobody even talks about it. Anyway, this is how you get there, by signing all of these. Alright, I'm going to one more time. Section 1 of the CFA outlines a direct financial support mechanism for families not falling within the medium or high income bracket. The state will issue a fixed payment for every child in these families, offering much needed financial relief. And I wish there was line item vetoes in this game. I really do. I like Section 2. I don't like Section 1. I mean, Section 1 is fine. The low class getting some support is all good and well, but we should really focus, and I mean really focus what we spend government money on, and make sure it's for the most needy in society. In Section 2, we're unlocking additional state support specifically aimed at children of unemployed families. These are the children that absolutely need this. And this is the reason I'm going to end up signing this bill, is because of those unemployed families and their children. It's important they get the money. But Section 1, while is nice that they get the money, it's not mandatory. If I could remove Section 1 and just stick to Section 2, that would be my preference here. But I don't have a line item veto. And I think this is so important that I have to sign it. There's been a notable increase in the number of students across the country. Many families who previously struggled financially can now access financial assistance for their children's education and healthcare, enabling them to thrive. As a result of these initiatives, the literacy rate is expected to increase by 4% each year. Every child has access to quality education and healthcare regardless of their financial situation. Children are the future. The Reagan government has today passed the Children for Future Act. The bill provides parents in the low-income bracket with a fixed payment for their children and ensures state support for children and unemployed families, financing their education and health care. This bill will improve the lives of countless children and families across Swordsland who all deserve a fair chance in life. No child should go without education or health care. And now we have no more money. We're broke again. Human Dignity Bill. This probably costs money. I'm probably going to have to veto it because it costs money. And that's going to piss people off, more than likely. It doesn't cost money. Okay, so what does it do? The Human Dignity Bill is sent before the Assembly to address an unintended consequence of the 1923 Legal Transaction Act. Section 1 of the Human Dignity Bill revisits and amends Section 3 of the aforementioned Act, which previously allowed transactions involving non-registered businesses or other entities, including individuals, to be legalized, provided that accurate documentation was submitted to the financial authority. The Human Dignity Bill specifically revokes the legality of such transactions if they involve activities that infringe upon public morality. Alright, this is really wordy. Human Dignity Bill. I expected something that would, I don't know, have to do with human dignity. Section 1 revisits and amends Section 3 of the aforementioned Act. Okay, there's an aforementioned Act. The Human Dignity Bill is sent before the Assembly to address unintended consequences of that Act previously. Section 1 of the HDB revisits and amends Section 3 of the aforementioned Act, which previously allowed transactions involving non-registered businesses or other entities, including individuals, to be legalized, provided that accurate documentation was submitted to the financial authority. It allowed transactions involving non-registered businesses. Okay, so if I'm getting this right, a little kid has a lemonade stand on the corner. Obviously, it's not a business. They make some sales of lemonade on the street corner. That's legal because they kept track of how many sales they made and submitted their lemonade stand's activity to the financial authority. So, if I'm reading this right, the HDB bill specifically revokes the legality of such transactions. So you can't have a lemonade stand anymore if they involve activities that infringe upon. You can't have a lemonade stand anymore if it infringes upon public morality. Okay, who's the arbiter of morality in this situation? I'm not sure I like a very... what is morality? Morality is subjective. I don't want to remove lemonade stands based on someone's subjective opinion. So far, I don't like this bill. Okay, Section 2 directly addresses the inadvertent loophole created by the 1923 Act, which resulted in unregulated existence of prostitution. This section of the HDB explicitly categorizes prostitution as an illegal activity irrespective of whether it occurs within a registered or non-registered entity. thereby fortifying our commitment to uphold common decency and moral principles. So, whether you like it or not, prostitution is literally the oldest business on the planet. Prostitution has been around since the beginning of time. When you drive prostitution underground or make it illegal, you're driving it underground. And it's done in shady venues that then causes its own headache. While I don't morally agree with prostitution, it is a business, and it is not something that should necessarily be banned based off of morality. Morality is a left hand. Government is a right hand. People can have a morally objective viewpoint or standpoint on something because they have their moral look at something. It should not then cause government to dictate whether or not it's legal or not. See what I'm saying? You might have a majority of people might find drinking to be reprehensible. That is a moral stance. Should the government then ban alcohol because a bunch of people find it to be reprehensible? No, government should not. In fact, we've already gone through that, right? That was prohibition. Prohibition didn't work out so well, did it? Section 2 directly addresses the inadvertent loophole created by that. Section 3 stipulates the penalties for violation of the provision in the preceding section. It deems prostitution an illegal offense. I'm vetoing this. Our good friend Peter can continue to go to the prostitution halls without having to do it illegally. Of course, this is the headline. Protect shortage sex workers. President Rain has vetoed the Human Dignity Bill. This bill would have seen sex work become an illegal offense and punishable by law. Sex workers already face high levels of discrimination. The world's oldest profession will always exist, but supporting sex workers with laws helps protect the health, safety, civil, and human rights of sex workers. Oh man, the communist paper is completely uttering what I just said. I'm in agreement with the communist propaganda. Oh well, but it's true. It is what it is. Okay, discuss on the current international affairs. Office of the President of Sorlin in the Maroon Palace. A storm was on the horizon outside my window, and a storm of a different kind was brewing inside of my office. I straightened myself on the sofa and looked at Carl. He was sitting on the couch across from me, ready to give me a report about an incident. I had just learned that a policeman gunned down an entire crowd. Wonderful. We stared at each other, not knowing how to react. A muscle in his jaw twitched. Sir, I know you wanted to establish talks with them, but these people do not understand diplomacy. Our men did their best to show restraint, but 6 officers were killed yesterday in Benfai. These are not innocent citizens anymore, Mr. President. They are killers, and so one of our boys had a reaction. I won't defend his action, but will not let him be thrown under the bus either. Hundreds of rioters surrounded them, sir. There was a risk of lynching. He was authorized to carry a submachine gun, and he used it. He lowered his head. This does a good job of really putting you in the no-win situation that this is. You know, you can go black and white on this, support the blue or back the blue or whatever. Nothing is ever black and white. Everything is shades of gray. And I guess it's how we try to react to each and every situation as best as we can. So I increased the funding of our police at the beginning of the game. I wanted them to be able to do their job, but I also expect them to do their job in a certain way, a way that's not mowing down citizens with a submachine gun, for instance. Citizens have a right to protest. However, citizens do not have the right to violently protest, to burn down buildings, etc. You know, like the Summer of Peace we had in the US. There's a difference between having a nice kumbaya sit-in where everyone holds hands and sings and is peaceful about their message, compared to, you know, throwing rocks and attacking people. Those are different subsets of protesting. One's a riot, the other is a protest. I told you to establish talks with them, not shoot the entire crowd down. I'm sorry, sir. It was outside of my control. Yeah, I know it was. You were not that guy. That guy did something. That guy did something he shouldn't have done. And unfortunately, when you have a group of people as large as police, there's an innumerable number of police in a country. It's a pretty large job that has a fairly large footprint of people, and you're going to have various people of all walks of life and inclinations. Some of these people might not be cut out to be a police officer. This is probably an example of one such individual who was not cut out for the job that he was in. And by doing what he just did, he paints a black eye to all the rest of the men and women within law enforcement who are trying to do the job the right way. So I have to remember that. At the same time, I have to condemn this. When will you ever learn to do your job properly? And that's not fair to him. Let's not dwell on it too much. We can't reverse time. I want everyone responsible to be tried. You genocidal freaks, what kind of police force is this? I want everyone responsible to be tried. Of course, sir. He's already dismissed from duty. I know there's no excuse for it, sir, but I will make sure nothing like this ever happens again. You can't make that promise, Carl. You can't physically stop every bad apple from doing something. I understand what you're saying, thank you, but it's impossible to say that. Good, then get to work immediately. We need to clean up this mess. Yes, sir. He stood up, bowed, and left the room. Rumberg plane warned inside airspace. Rumberg plane warned inside the airspace. A lone Rumbergian warplane violated our airspace by entering the territory of Swordsland for 2 minutes and left after issuing a radio message. Any news here? Unruly generals. Oh, this can't be great. The communication breakdown between the higher-ups and the generals and military has become a major issue. Despite the weekly reports, the generals are not responding effectively, leading to a lack of coordination and effectiveness in executing commands. Fire them all. I'm serious. Just fire them all. Get a new set of officers in. Protesters respond to diplomacy. 6 officers killed in action. The government's attempt to hold talks with the leaders of the increasingly violent protests has been responded with the killing of 6 police officers. It is clear that the people on the streets are aiming to destabilize our country and society if they can't even sit at a table to end this violence. This is the news painting something from a certain point of view. Lockeman Times, Women's Rights Bill failed. As expected, the Women's Liberation Act, spearheaded by Minister of Education Sierra Walda, failed to pass. This bill, which would have made gender equality education mandatory in addition to supporting workplace equality and working mothers as well as prohibiting domestic violence, was seen as too extreme of a push by many members of the government. Without the support of the president, it was doomed to fail from the beginning. Women's right, how long must we wait? Arcasia's dual approach to refugees. Amidst rising religious persecution in United Cortana and several hardline CSP nations, the Republic of Arcasia has opened its doors, positioning itself as a beacon of hope for the oppressed. To manage the influx, the Arcasian government has implemented a program of integrating these refugees into the workforce. Wonderful. Good for them. They're gonna regret it in a few years, though. Bogsland blocks Helgeland. According to reports coming from Helgeland, the island is under complete blockade from Bogslandian Navy ships. 6 ships that transported goods to the island were forced to retreat, and the Bogslandian fleet fired on them. Alright, fund political youth group. The option to fund a political youth group is presented. We have no business giving money to spread propaganda to our youth. Our youth need to make up their own political mind on their own without being swayed by the government. Not gonna fund, but we didn't have the money to fund it anyway. And we're on a downward track again. Will the economy ever pick up? Rumsburg reparations proposal. Swordland can pay reparations to Rumsburg to open a path to peace. Right. So I can put our country into debt to get a path to peace, huh? We're not paying the reparations. Pretty much blackmail anyway. Swordland doesn't extend olive branch. Oh my god. Swordland didn't have the money to pay off her. Hard choices that pay off in the long run take courage to take and sometimes costly. President Rain has decided that the cost for extending the olive branch to Rumsburg was too high. Swordland's move to decline the reparations to Rumsburg for the 15-day war would certainly not help the tensions between the neighbors. Emergency call on escalating situation. Residence of the President of Swordland and Holsword. I was woken up in the middle of the night by a call from the Ministry of Defense. Due to the sensitivity of the information, I had to be urgently briefed in person. I put on my clothes as fast as I could. I rushed downstairs and opened the door. Sergei was waiting for me. Mr. President, this way to the car, please. We got into the car and made our way to the Ministry of Defense building without a word. I arrived and was directed downstairs. I came to a set of large doors and quickly read the sign above them. The sign read War Room. The dimly lit room was filled with cutting-edge equipment, the latest video screens, long-range radio electronics, and other devices used for communication, presenting, and planning. The centerpiece of the room was a large round table with the coat of arms of Swordland engraved on it. David, Lucien, Valken, and Iosif were already deep in discussions. Mr. Lancia, I advise caution. Going to war wouldn't help anyone. We must maintain peace in Swordland and Eastern Marcopa at all cost. What do you expect us to do? Sit around and do nothing? They are testing us. We must respond immediately, otherwise they will think we are weak. We must respond immediately to what exactly? Mr. President, thank you for coming in at this late hour. There is a situation. Falcon, please go ahead and provide your report. Mr. President, approximately 20 minutes ago, Rumsburg downed one of our planes with anti-aircraft fire from the ground. The pilot was declared killed in action. They did they? The last recorded position of the plane was inside Swedish airspace. General Kruger, I mean no offense, but are we absolutely sure that this is the case? Are you sure this happened within our borders? No offense taken. Here are the locations on the map and the report from the airbase. Pointed to several markers on the map. To answer your question, yes, we are absolutely sure. You can see here on the map that the plane was downed approximately 10 kilometers inside our border. We have calculated the trajectory of the gunfire, and they started firing when our plane was within our border. The plane was down near Halgan. You know, it's easy to be Ronald Reagan when you're the United States of America. What do I mean by that? We have a special or a unique situation to where we are literally the arsenal of democracy, in that when something like this happens, we can react with a very big stick in a very precise manner. However, we are Swordland. We are not the richest country in the world. We're not even close. We are not the most technologically advanced country in the world. We're not even close. We're just another average country somewhere in the middle of the pecking order. And we're facing a country that's far larger. So yeah, as an American, your tendency is to respond. But this isn't the USA. We need to be cautious. A war with Rumsburg is the last thing we want right now. I completely agree. It looks like they're trying to lure us into their trap. We have enough military power to contest. We have enough military power to contest against this violation of international law. We should attack and down one of their planes in retaliation. That's escalation. That's only just going to lead us to war for sure, Iosif. Otherwise, we will look weak and it will lead to more casualties. No, no, no. Being strong is being willing to turn the cheek. We can't look weak. If we appear weak, they will jump on the opportunity. We must order military retaliation immediately. I agree with the General. Mr. President, our army is ready to do whatever it takes to protect Swordland. Gentlemen, before it comes to that point, we can prevent further bloodshed by using diplomacy. The room fell silent before Iosif finally spoke up. Mr. President, what are your orders? Start the Swordish war machine and prepare to invade Rumsburg. They will pay for their crimes. An eye for an eye, we will retaliate with equal force to display our strength. Swordland can't afford to look weak. We will approach this diplomatically and try to de-escalate the situation by any means no one wants for. I've never done the whole start the Swordish war machine before. I'm almost curious to see what would happen, but this is not the run for that. This is not the playthrough for experimentation. This is a playthrough where I need to roleplay as a president that would actually be sensible. I'm trying to have a consistent, cohesive playthrough where a president's actually in these shoes and he's actually doing what would be best for his country. I really don't think starting the Swordish war machine, where you're outnumbered 10 soldiers to 1 against a country 10 times larger than you, is exactly the best idea. And again, I don't think an eye for an eye is exactly the best idea either, so we will approach this diplomatically and try to de-escalate situations by any means no one wants war. Lucian's tensed-up shoulders relaxed. Thank you, sir. I will immediately begin working on it. With Mr. Whiskey's capabilities, I'm sure that we will de-escalate the situation successfully. We will keep you updated on our progress. We should have retaliated. I hope the diplomatic response makes sure that further incidents like this are prevented. If there is a next time, I'm afraid that it will be war. We are showing weakness. Of course it will be a war the next time around. I'm frankly disappointed, Mr. President. If we can't even retaliate after such an attack, what will become of this country in the future? Peace must be maintained at all cost. I'm saying this as a man who has seen too many years of war. We are not the ones that are attacking the peace. Regardless, it looks like your decision has been made, Mr. President. I know when I'm not needed. I will take my leave. Before he left the room, he saluted. Well, now that we know the way forward, I have an idea, Mr. President. I think we should hold a military parade to display our strength. I'm with Mr. Lancia on this one. This should work well as a deterrent and will come in handy as a tool to de-escalate the situation. It will? The military parade is going to de-escalate the situation? It will reassure our people, maybe. It'll go towards being good PR for our people, but it's not going to de-escalate the situation with Rumsburg. That's a good idea. Simple and effective without causing any ruckus. Alright, fine. Organize the military parade. Understood. That is all, Mr. President. I will keep you updated on the situation. For now, have a good night's sleep. You will need it. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Wayland raises concerns over Rumberg's posturing. Amidst escalating tension in the region, Wayland's president, Victor Smolak, has issued a statement raising concerns about Rumsberg's aggressive maneuvers. Expressing unease over Rumsberg's clandestine support for Lettish Freedom Front, Smolak warned Swordland to stay vigilant. This warning comes on the heels of a recent aerial engagement between Swordland and Rumsberg, further inflaming the already volatile atmosphere. Swordish plane shut down. Swordish airplane has been shot down by Rumsbergian anti-aircraft guns, allegedly for violating Rumsbergian airspace. Government officials said the airplane was shot inside the airspace of Swordland. Our plane was shot down when it was flying near Hagen over the territory of Swordland by an anti-aircraft missile. Our pilot did not threaten Rumsberg in any way, said Ios Valencia, the Minister of Defense. Despite the revealed evidence from Swordish officials, the Queen of Rumsberg, Beatrice Livingston, had the guts to claim that our plane was shot for violating their airspace. This is truly a heinous act of purposefully done by our rivals in the north. The tragic event will have severe consequences for Swordland and Rumsberg relations. Urgent meeting on potential alliances. I was sitting right across from David in the White Room after he scheduled an urgent meeting. I knew the matter must have been serious. He insisted on waiting for Iosif and Lucian, so we did. Lucian entered the room with Iosif by his side. Mr. President, we came as fast as we could. Mr. President? Mr. Whiskey? What is going on? David cleared his throat. Welcome, everyone. Due to the potential ramifications, I wanted everyone to be present for this meeting. We have received an envoy from Arcasia. They are requesting a state visit. Judging from the current climate, it is not hard to see what this is about. ATO is always trying to expand its influence, after all. They will most likely try to convince us to join. In addition, as part of this state visit, Dwight Walker will, of course, meet with you in person, Mr. President. It's about time. I wanted to meet with him as well. With all due respect, are you out of your mind? Mr. Lancia. I did not say anything. This is madness. We cannot even consider accepting this. I bet he will come asking for us for cooperation under the guise of enforcing their demands to join ATO. This will antagonize half of the world against us, and we are going to be at the forefront of the battle. If you are approaching this from the perspective of national defense, then don't. We are in a better shape than we were ever before. I assure you we don't need any outside help, definitely not from Dwight Walker. We will make do somehow. Let's see what he wants first. I will decide when I talk to him. We need to be careful. Mr. Walker never gives anything for free. There will be some concessions for sure. Mr. Whiskey, you are our most experienced foreign policy expert. What's your take on this? What do you think is the right action? Rumsberg is bound to increase diplomatic pressure in the upcoming AN meeting. Back channels are reporting rumors about Queen Beatrice Livingston's meeting with military leaders in Thornburg. I'm afraid it might not be possible to stand against Rumsberg without strong allies. Soon we will have to take a side in this global rivalry to avert a potential conflict with Rumsberg. And I recently found out of a planned meeting between the Queen and Chairman Melanev of the United Cortana. The ATO and President Walker might be the necessary evil to stop worse things from happening. I say we should consider this offer very seriously. Lucian, what do you think? We heard our experts. You are the one who has to decide, sir. Very well, accept their offer. I will send a response immediately. Then there is a tiny detail we need to get over with. How should we welcome their delegation, sir? A plain welcome will suffice. They are the ones who are requesting this. As you wish, I've taken note. I think that's all for today. Thank you all for attending. As we dispersed, the world map hanging on the wall in the room caught my attention. I walked over to it. How often were the lines on the world map redrawn over the recent decades? What about the future? Okay. Oh look, there's some ships on the map. State visit of President Walker. The door of the car opened and flashes went off. Dwight Walker, president of Arcasia, head of the ATO, came out of the car smiling and waving at the enormous crowd. They gathered. It was not every day an Arcasian president came to visit Swordland, after all. President Walker stepped on the carpet and started to make his way towards us. Along with Monica, I started walking over to meet him midway. Finally, I was in the reaching distance to one of the most powerful men in the world. He looked at Monica first, bowed, and kissed her hand for a second longer than I liked. Mr. Rain, if you told me I would get to meet with your lovely wife, I would have come sooner. I'm charmed, Miss Rain. Oh my, thank you, Mr. Walker. It's a pleasure to meet with you. No, the pleasure is all mine, Miss Rain. I hope your wife and the family as well. They are very well, Miss Rain, thank you. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it here today. And who do we have here? Mr. President, it is good to finally meet with you. We shook hands. It's really good to see you, Mr. President. I assure you the feeling is mutual. That's why I'm here, in fact. He turned and looked around. I was almost going to think that you weren't expecting me. I'm a simple man, not really a fan of extravagance. Me, Mr. President, I'm the exact opposite. He laughed. We started walking towards the reception hall in the palace. Our path was cleared of people at once. He was simply looking around at the extraordinary interior design of the Maroon Palace. Statues, paintings, and various ornaments filled both sides of the corridor. We passed the corridor and entered the reception hall. The crowd inside was composed of various politicians and state figures. Upon our entry, they started clapping. Dry martinis were handed to both of us. Everyone, let's give a warm welcome to our guest of honor. People started clapping. Thank you, President Rain. It's really good to be here. And thank you, everyone, for the warm welcome. With another thunderous roar of applause, the jazz band started playing. President Walker and I separated and started mingling with the crowd. The reception was in full swing. After some time chatting with the attendees, President Walker approached us. He bowed before my wife. Miss Rain, can I call you Monica? She looked over at me before smiling at him. Yes, of course, if I can call you Dwight. He took her hand and they started dancing. I turned around to talk to the waiter. I was into my third martini when I heard a whistle. I turned around and saw Monica dancing very closely with President Walker. All eyes in the room were on them. President Walker grabbed Monica's waist. Interject and dance with Monica. I moved in and caught an opportunity to take Monica's hand. We started dancing. We hadn't danced since our wedding. I was struggling to remember the right steps. President Walker was watching us with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. It's right, right, left, right. As Monica whispered the steps in my ear, I followed along, at first hesitantly, then smoother and more confident. It was starting to come back to me. The band played on. For a moment, it felt like it was only the two of us in the room. We moved together as one, seamlessly gliding across the dance floor. At some point, a spotlight began shining on us. As the song came to an end, I spun Monica around and dramatically dipped her on the last beat. Applause and whistles echoed around us. We went back to the bar. You saved me, Monica. At your service, Mr. President. President Walker approached, clapping and whistling himself. Bravo, bravo, well done. I never took you for a dancer, Mr. Rain. That goes both ways, Mr. Walker. I do practice in my free time, but I could never hope to be as good as you. The waiter came by and we swapped our empty glasses with filled ones. Let's talk about some business, shall we? So far this guy's quite smooth. The president and I swapped our drinks for our elderly maroon 30-year-old. I knew a special spot. With our drinks at hand, we went down the stairs to the basement. Gradually, the music and the sound of the party started to fade away. We arrived at a cozy little corner office with not much inside other than a table and comfortable chairs. He took a seat and I followed suit. He pulled out 2 cigars. Take one of the cigars. He pulled out a Ripple lighter and lit my cigar before lighting his own. I heard you got into a scandal, something about a secretary. Truly unfortunate chain of events. Indeed. He grinned. Relax, it's just a scandal, and I'm no reporter. I just made it out alive of a bad one myself. Oof, it was a rough one too. You get used to it. A couple of people in prison, a couple of people silenced, you know the drill. Cheers to your survival then, Mr. Rain. We clinked our glasses and took a sip. Ah, this is a really good one. Very smoky, I like it. I'm glad you like it. He took a puff from the cigar, filling the room with smoke. Definitely miles better than Bogslandian whiskey. But I like lesbian whiskey more. It pairs better with their cigars. You see, Mr. Rain, whiskeys are a little bit like countries. Some are stronger, some are weaker. Some are older, some are younger. Many are complex, but sometimes simple is the best. I personally like stronger whiskeys in general. That's why I liked this one. Yes, it's definitely promising. But whatever you drink, in the end, it all boils down to your own taste. And I assure you, Mr. Rain, my sense of taste is very refined. What type of whiskey do you like? I'm good with whatever is made here in Swordland. Fine answer, but a bit restricted, I would say. He tugged at his tie to loosen it a little. You know why I'm here. I want to make you an offer. The type I can't refuse? Of course not. This is an offer, not an order. Listen closely. Times are changing, and so is the balance of the world. Soon, instead of a fractured world, we will see a more united world. There is us, ATO, against them. I want you by our side, the winning side. I think there is much we can achieve together, and you have shown me the proof. If you accept, I'd like to extend you a warm welcome to ATO as a full member state. This, of course, comes along with lots of privileges and responsibilities. In ATO, we protect each other. We have a mutual defense clause in the case of war. Join us, Mr. Rain, and you will have the entire backing of the ATO, soldiers, jet fighters, warships, whatever you like. During peacetime, you will see the effect even more. Our combined production output will benefit both Swordland and ATO. We will have free trade agreements, free visa access, investments, you name it. All I ask in return is mutual loyalty to one another in the pact. The Swordfish Armed Forces will be a member of the ATO military structure. All branches, be it Air, Navy, and Army, will collaborate with the Alliance Network. We will provide assistance and training for free. Our armies will learn how to fight together and be stronger than ever in the face of this socialist threat. Let's make history tonight. What do you say? I don't like the part about our military being incorporated into their command structure. Then there's also the part about free visa access, which is fine. Free visa access is legal immigration, so that's not a problem. Investments, I like investments. Free trade zone agreements. So this could possibly compete with our own businesses, meaning, let's say that Arcadia's agricultural sector is stronger and larger than ours. They could compete with our own farmers and possibly be able to sell goods cheaper than our own farmers can in our own country, thus hurting our own farmers. So there's a bit more to think about in this, but at the same time there's a lot of upside to this. So obviously joining ATO, we don't have to worry about Rumsburg being an issue anymore. We can spend less on our military and invest more into our other sectors because we have Big Brother looking out for us, which means that by investing in our other sectors, we can become a stronger country. And essentially, that's what Europe does, right? Europe pays less on their military by far than we do. We shoulder the burden of being Big Brother, while they're able to invest more into other things than we can. So yeah, we'll join, Mr. Walker. We'll take full advantage of your hospitality to the best that we possibly can. I say aye. I accept, Mr. Walker. That's what I'd like to hear. We stood up and shook hands. Welcome to ATO, Mr. Rain. Welcome home. Cheers to the newfound partnership. We clinked our glasses and downed the remaining whiskey. Now it's starting to taste better. Let's go upstairs, Mr. Rain. We have much to discuss. But more importantly, we need to celebrate. Besides, I have a few more dance moves to show off. Administration announces Swordland's ATO membership. President Rain has announced that Swordland will take the next steps to join ATO. The transition period will have no effects on the citizens during their earlier days. However, gradually our economy and society will begin to integrate. Militarily, ATO will now have substantial power over the decision-making of the Swordfish Armed Forces, which justifiably was not and will not be welcomed by many officials from the Army. Yeah, think. Okay, Swordland joins ATO. President Walker's Swordland visit bore fruit, as President Rain has announced that Swordland will be joining the ranks of the ATO. The historic moment has been welcomed warmly by the member states of ATO as they congratulate Swordland's President Rain. Lesbian's counterpart, Prime Minister Alvarez, has called Swordland's joining to the ATO the best thing to happen in Eastern Maricopa in the last century. Over the span of the next couple of years, Swordland will economically, militarily, and diplomatically integrate with the rest of the Pact. Although the membership comes with a myriad of responsibilities, the changes will improve Swordland as a whole in almost every aspect. On the other side of the world, the leaders of the CSP called Swordland's ATO membership a threat to the stability of the world. Dirtia condemns Swordland's ATO membership. Supreme Wiseman Jorga Asmal has openly censored Swordland's recent membership in the Arcasian Treaty Organization, invoking religious curses and diplomatic pressure. He denounced this alignment as a betrayal of Eastern Rakopa solidarity. Asmal highlighted the potential for this alliance to escalate tensions and disturb the regional balance. He warned Swordland to consider the spiritual and political repercussions of such an alliance. ATO alliance enlarges with the inclusion of Swordland. The ATO alliance has officially extended its partnership to Swordland, an essential move that bolsters ATO influence on the strategic eastern tip of Rakopa. This expansion into the eastern front serves to solidify ATO's hold over the region, aligning with Lesbia and enforcing a robust ATO presence. The Swordish Armed Forces have embarked on a series of joint military exercises with their esteemed allies, aiming to enhance military coordination, interoperability, and synergy. Throughout these collaborative drills, the Swordish Armed Forces seek to improve their strategic alignment and tactical cooperation with allied forces, fostering a more cohesive and effective defense network. ATO officers engage in close partnership with Swordish generals, diligently exchanging and imparting their contemporary strategies, innovative tactics, and specialized training to the Swordish soldiers. Their collaborative endeavors serve to fortify the skills and proficiency of the Swordish military, enabling them to adapt and thrive in an ever-evolving operational environment. Modernized Air Force. Following a comprehensive modernization effort, the Swordish Air Force has undergone a substantial transformation and is now considered one of the most capable air forces in the region. With upgraded aircraft and advanced technology, the Air Force is able to conduct a wide range of operations, including air-to-air combat, air-to-ground attacks, and reconnaissance missions. The highly skilled pilots and technicians have undergone extensive training and are well equipped to handle various situations in time of conflict. Trade Initiative 2, spearheaded by the Republic of Swordland, represents a strategic foreign policy. Moves to aim to establish strengthening. Okay. Foreign energy. There's a high degree of foreign manipulation in Swordland's energy sector, threatening the country's energy stability and raising significant concerns about the national security and sovereignty. Arcasian influence. Arcasia, a superpower in the region, has brought Swordland under its sphere of influence. The strategic move reflects Arcasia's growing influence and demonstrates its ability to shape the political landscape of the region. Fluctuating energy prices. Swordland is currently grappling with fluctuating energy prices, a development causing uncertainty in the domestic market. This unpredictability may lead to significant repercussions of Swordland's economy and can influence both domestic policy and international trade relations. As per the treaty obligation, the ATO is providing the Swordish Armed Forces new military equipment, assistance in unifying our military logistics, and providing new training techniques. Swordland is a strategic member of a large and important international alliance which has increased its prestige and influence on the global stage. The membership in this alliance underscores Swordland's commitment to promoting regional cooperation. Alright, late night at the Rain household. It was late at night when I exited Sergei's car, walked through the gate of the presidential complex, and unlocked my front door. Monica and I weren't speaking much at all these days. I'd been spending more and more time in the office just to avoid the chilly atmosphere that awaited me at home. The lights in the kitchen were still on. I walked in to find Monica sitting alone at the table, pouring the dregs of a bottle of cabbage into her glass. Well, if it isn't the savior of swordish women, our knight in shining armor. At your service, ma'am. I was being sarcastic, Anton. I know you were. Sierra called and told me what happened with her woman's rights bill because she knew I'd want to know. This would never have happened if you'd supported us. You ladies were asking too much too quickly. That's bullshit, Monica hiccuped. This was my big chance, the one I'd wanted to do since before I even met you. Anton Wayne, you ruined it. All I wanted to do was protect you. You've seen what this job has done to me in the past 3 years. Oh, have I ever. Monica sighed deeply. I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm calling Evelyn's divorce attorney. Wow. Wait, please, let's talk about this. I don't know, Anton. Show Monica the framed photo you took from your old office. You reached into my briefcase and pulled out the photo of us I had taken from my old office. Monica looked at it. Tears began to form in her eyes. Look how happy we are here. We loved each other once. We can still fix this. Monica's expression softened slightly. All right, I'll hold off on talking to the lawyer, at least until after you're reelected. That gives me more time to figure out how I can win you back. Monica gave me the faintest of nods. Can you find somewhere else to sleep tonight? I need to be alone for a little while. I nodded numbly. A short time later, bag in hand, I called Sergei and asked him to take me to the closest hotel. As we were driving away, I took a long look back at the house where my wife and daughter were sleeping. I hoped I hadn't lost them forever. Medium investment synergy observed. A moderate level of investment synergy is being observed across several sectors. Investments are generally aligning well in contribution to steady economic progress. While some areas could benefit from improved coordination, overall the positive interplay between various investments is supporting consistent economic growth. Well, if that's the case, why is this still going down? Volkslandia Navy spotted in full force in Helgoland. One-on-one interview from Kairut. Lucien Galad organized an interview for the presidency on an internationally renowned one-on-one. The famous journalist Thomas Sacker will be asking the questions. The crew of One-on-One and Thomas Sacker will arrive next week in Lochben from Kairut. Oh. That could go great or terribly. Or both. Great and terribly. Armed groups declare war against the state. Wait, what? After the government's response to the protests, certain groups within the protesters released a joint statement declaring Anton Ray's presidency to be over. Groups called every protester and citizen to join what they call a march for freedom. While being no match for the Honorable Swedish security personnel, it is disgusting that such armed groups can infiltrate protesters and ignite bloody conflicts. The sad reality is especially pronounced by the fact that a lot of peaceful protests have started to be swayed by militants to partake in riots, vandalizing government property. Swedish police forces are already standing ready to protect their brothers and sisters and will surely bring the situation under control. Swordland's largest military parade ever. President Rayne has announced Swordland's largest military parade ever to display the strength of the Swedish armed forces of the world. During the glorious day, tanks will roll, jets will fly, and our soldiers will march. Young and old Swedish citizens will come together once and cheer for our soldiers. The parade will send a clear message to our enemies: beware. President Rayne will be joining the parade with a motorcade and a drive through Victory Avenue. Deadly ambush in Jen. There have been at least 9 different attacks on police forces by various armed groups since last Monday, the last of which occurred in Jen's Maroon Avenue. 8 militants disguised as construction workers entered the construction zone near the avenue and ambushed 2 police vehicles. The attacks were immediately killed, but 6 policemen were killed in the ambush. WPB record membership numbers. According to the numbers released by the Workers' Party of Bloody, there is a massive increase in their membership, breaking a new record for the party. The poll also shows that the popularity of the party has reached new heights in Bergia and is expected to finish the first or the second in the region of Bergia. Fatih Ejal said in a public statement, the Workers' Party is leading a great journey to the Maroon Palace to finally bring about the People's Revolution. Those who are at the top may continue ignoring us, but the people will respond to them in the polls. Swordland creates peace line to avert war. Following Rumsberg's demand for reparation from Swordland, the tensions have increased dramatically between the two countries. Yesterday, a Swedish warplane has been shot down by the Rumsberg's anti-air system, and all of the pilots on board have been killed. As per the information from Rumsberg, the Swedish warplane has trespassed into Rumbergian airspace, whereas Swedish military reports that the plane was inside Swedish borders when it was shot down. The international community is unclear of the certainty of the reports from both sides. Thankfully, the Swedish administrations approached the incident calmly and established a peace line to avert war between the two countries. President Rayne has been commended internationally for his efforts to de-escalate the situation and maintain peace. In a move that marks significant milestones in collective security, the CSP announced the establishment of the Complex Unified Intelligence Network. ATO demands transit rights from the Confederacy of Yarktralis. The ATO has formally requested land and naval transit rights from the Confederacy of Yarktralis, aiming to ensure more secure passage that bypasses southern Cortana and southern Xena. This request underscores both Yarktralis' strategic geopolitical importance and the ATO's desire to maintain open lines of communication and transit with the Confederacy. However, the Confederacy of Yarktralis, steadfast in its commitment to sovereignty and territorial integrity, firmly rejected the ATO's request. The refusal was issued by Euravia, the Confederacy respected elder overseer. Yarktralis. Where is that? And why is that of importance? I have no idea, as it's not really on my map, is it? No. Okay, we do have something in Vogsland. Vogsland increases naval presence in Grey Strait. Grey Strait. Here between us and Vogsland. It's being reported that the Vogslandian Navy has increased its presence along our shores, particularly at the Grey Strait. The already massive fleet patrolling the Marquian Sea is now accompanied by a second one. According to our intelligence, Vogslandians are also installing defensive systems with offensive capabilities on our southern shores. This poses great danger for whole sword and the whole country. Alright, I think this election speech will be the last thing we'll do in this episode. The sun was starting to peek through the blinds of my suite in the Grand Chariot Hotel in Enrica. I hadn't slept at all that night. I was too busy thinking about how I would rally my party's conservative base at today's election kickoff. I was just pulling on my clothes when the two soft, sharp knocks came at the door. Lucian, good morning, sir. Morning, Lucian. Lucian sat down in the suite's office chair and pulled a piece of paper from his jacket pocket. I just thought I'd drop off some talking points for your speech today. Much appreciated. No trouble at all. Are you sure you can take another 4 more years of me? I'm ready if you are, Mr. President. I'll see you at the rally. I almost forgot the Archpriest of Dare couldn't be present today, but wanted to relay a message of support to you and your family. Oh, I'm sure. What did he say? I blessed the rains down in Enrica. Lucian left the room. I finished putting on my tie and reread my notes from the morning speech. A few hours later, I was waiting the wings at the Norsword Auditorium in Enrica. In the audience were several thousand of my conservative supporters. Behind the podium hung a Swordish flag and a giant banner that read, Peace, prosperity, and the Swordish way. Everyone cheered as I walked on stage, though Mayor Curtin Lestat was now part of the opposition as a member of the NFP. It seemed most of Enrica was still on my side. Albin gave a short speech introducing me, then it was my turn. I stepped behind the podium and took a deep breath. Sons and daughters of Swordland. The past 3.5 years have seen our country tested again and again. Yet Swordland has prevailed. Under my administration, we are stronger than ever. Are we really? I've begun to fix the disastrous economic decisions of my predecessors. As violence on the streets threatened to tear us apart, I promise I will restore harmony. I will continue to defend Swordland against threats, whether internal or external. I will continue to root out corruption and wrongdoings even within the institutions we hold dear. Some have accused me of straying from the values of the USP. To them, I say, I am the USP. I have devoted an unprecedented amount of effort toward making Swordland's economy the best in the world. We will not lose. The youth and determination of my new vice president. I and Vice President Clavin shall lead Swordland into a bright new era. A roar shook the hall. It is time, my fellow swords. A new dawn is upon us, and it begins right here and right now. A Morgana West Corps. The audience enthusiastically finished the saying as streamers shout out of cannons behind me. My re-election campaign had officially begun. I stepped down from the podium. Another Alfonso. Make the USP obstruct you and trigger. I didn't see what those Steam achievements I just got were, but I'm sure they're interesting. It seems we got some governmental budget to play with, so that's a good thing. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Software. This is my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If so, please smash that like button, consider subscribing, and until the next time, all, peace.